Hello everyone and welcome back to another movie review. Today I'm going to be reviewing Unbreakable. This is in preparation for me seeing Glass this weekend and reviewing it soon after on this channel, so keep an eye out for that. This is, of course, the beginning of the trilogy that is Unbreakable, Split, and Glass. I saw Split 2 years ago when it came out, and I thought it was pretty good, but I didn't really understand that it was connected to things, especially because at the end, when they showed David Dunn's character for Bruce Willis's character David Dunn for a few seconds, I didn't really know what was going on. But now I have more context after seeing Unbreakable, and I'm excited to see Glass. Excited to give my opinions on it. At least it has mixed reviews, so I just want to see where I fall. But anyway, let's talk about Unbreakable. So the story of Unbreakable follows a man who's a security guard at a football stadium. His name is David Dunn. He's played by Bruce Willis, who ends up in a car accident, or a train accident. Everyone on board, I think it's over 130 people, dies, except for him. He wakes up in the hospital and he's completely unharmed. The doctors have no idea what's going on. He's very confused. All the families of the people who died are just looking at him in shock, having no idea what happened. And he is approached soon after by a man named Elijah Price, who the movie actually starts off with an opening scene about him, which I'll talk about in a second. Elijah Price is convinced that David Dunn is a superhero. Elijah's been into comic books his entire life. When he was young, he was in his bed a lot, sick bed a lot, because he has a disease or a condition that makes his bones very easy to break. So he grew up spending a lot of time resting, healing his broken bones, and just reading comic books. So he's very into comic books. He owns an art gallery where he shows comic books and all sorts of things like that. And he's convinced that David Dunn is a superhero. He's a superhuman person. So he approaches him and he says, "You are invincible. This is clear to me." And David's kind of confused, and his son is surprised and intrigued. And it starts off a very interesting arc that is essentially most of the movie, where David Dunn tries to come to terms with the fact that he might be something more than human. He doesn't want to believe it at first. He's adamantly against it, but he starts realizing that he has different abilities, and it all comes together in a couple of ways that just kind of subvert your normal superhero arc and have an interesting take on it. So I'm going to start with a few of the positive things I thought about this movie. One of the main things that you see straight off the bat is that it starts off with an information card about comic book collecting, saying how many comic books are sold each year, how many the average comic book collector has in their collection, how much time the average comic book collector spends reading it. And it starts off the tone that, okay, comic books are very important in this movie. And even to the point where when you're seeing Elijah's comic book gallery, there are real issues of Thor and Superman and Spider-Man and things in there. And I thought that was really cool, because I honestly expected them to not have any real, DC or Marvel comics in there, but they did, and I thought that was great. Another thing is the Elijah as a baby opening scene, where his mother is giving birth to him, and a doctor comes in and is helping her, and it looks just in shock at the baby, and the mother is confused, and all the people around are confused, but it's because the birth canal giving birth to the child broke almost all of his bones. And that is just a great opening way to set up this interesting character that has very easy to break bones, which is of course what Glass is made up, following up the story of, is Elijah Price's character of Mr. Glass, is what the kids called him when he was a child. And that was a great opening scene. It really got the intrigue going, especially right after the comic book information slide. And then another thing right after that, it's just bam, 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 great things, is the opening credits. It appears to be almost one unbroken shot of a conversation between Bruce Willis's character and a woman who sits next to him on the train, where the camera pans behind, above, around the two seats in front of them on the train, and it's amazing to watch, and it's something that I think is incredibly impressive. So all of that goes, then the train crash happens, and it just starts the rest of the movie. In the first few acts, especially, there is a lot of creative use of camera work, especially through mirrors and bouncing angles off mirrors of people behind doors, or things like that, and interesting framing where there will be camera farther down hallway or behind something, or looking through a crack or something like that. And it's very interesting to see, especially because as someone who watches a lot of comic book movies and is a huge superhero fan myself, that's not something you usually see in comic book movies. In fact, I've probably never seen something like that, where the director focuses really hard on trying to make it artistically appealing, not just entertaining. So props to the movie for that. And honestly, just overall, thinking about this movie and thinking about it afterward, and especially as I was watching it, it's a really cool concept. It's so unique compared to the amount of superhero movies that we get today, which, again, I really like most of the superhero movies that come out, and I am not the kind of snob that's going to put down those for just being entertainment, but it's in its own sort of area because it fits both the roles of, a movie where the people realize that the director cares a lot, and one where it's just entertaining comic book fun. So I kind of the best of both worlds. And the idea of a character, of a superhero essentially, who doesn't want to believe that he's a superhero is just unique. I've not really seen that. In fact, I can't think of any cases where that happened in any of the comic books I've read. And I've read an absolutely ridiculous amount of comic books. I have a huge stack behind me somewhere. So unique concept with the unique execution for the genre is just a double whammy of greatness for this movie. And also, throughout the movie, it's obviously revealed that more things about the characters' backstories and how they interact with each other and what their relationships were in the past. And David Dunn's character, or Bruce Willis's character, David Dunn, I keep getting them mixed up, isn't given much backstory. But this actually makes sense. Throughout the course of the movie, you realize that the lack of backstory actually makes sense in the context of the plot. So for me, I was confused at first, and I was really wishing that they had given him sort of like an opening scene where it sort of showed his background. But the things that the story does tell you and reveals throughout the course of it, and then reveals, of course, that there is a reason that you don't get much of it, is very nice. And then finally, there's a mediocre point that could go either way, and then a couple negatives. So for the mediocre point, there's a twist ending. This is an M. Night Shyamalan movie, so of course there'll be a twist ending. But in all honesty, I completely saw it coming. I do think that this is because I'd seen the trailers for Glass, and I kind of knew what to expect from Mr. Glass's character, Elijah Price's character. So it didn't really impact me that much and kind of left the ending lackluster to me. But I do understand that if I had seen this, well, I couldn't have seen it when it came out because I was just being born. But if I had seen this earlier on, before the trailers for Glass, or before I knew that Split was connected to Unbreakable, then I probably would have enjoyed it a lot more and would have been a lot more impactful. So if you don't know anything about this movie, it's better to go in blind and have the twist ending be a little more powerful for you. And as for some of the negatives, Bruce Willis's character has a son. I don't remember his name. I try to push him out of my brain because, in all honesty, he's just incredibly obnoxious. He has a stupid look on his face for most of the scenes. Kid's not a great actor, and because of this, and because of the fact that the kid is involved in a lot of the emotionally powerful scenes, it kind of kills the emotional tension that the scenes are trying to provide. Especially, there's really one powerful one where the kid is the main part of the tension. And I just, oh God, I wanted to like it so much, but the kid, he just killed the scene for me. And also, the second half is really slow paced compared to the first half, where new things are being discovered a lot, and then the second half, or at least the last third or so, is just, it's slow paced. It's trying to give you the emotional tension in almost every scene, and I just think it didn't really work. It was a little bit too slow for my taste, but there was still interesting content in there. I'm not saying it wasn't bad. It would just kind of broke the pacing for me and changed it up a little too much. So overall, a lot more positives than there was negatives. I give this movie 4 out of 5 stars, or an 8 out of 10. I really recommend it, especially for for anyone who likes comic book movies, and even someone who just wants a pretty interesting thriller that happens to involve comic book esque characters. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will see you guys in another review.